Okay, we're going to continue on with our review, and we're going to start with question number 19. And in 19 and 20, we're given the above functions to use. And in 19, we're asked to multiply these two together. So we're just simply going to substitute in f of x with 4x and g of x with x squared plus 5x. And now, folks, we're just going to multiply these out. If this was a binomial, we would FOIL it, and since it's not, all we have to do is distribute it. So 4x times x squared is 4x cubed, and 4x times 5x is 20x squared, and we're done. Number 20, we're going to again make those same substitutions. And when we take out g of x, we get x squared plus 5x. And f of x is 4x. And many times you can just leave it, but I want to just show you that this also can be simplified. Goes back to chapter 5, the one we love so well, where you can take out the GCF in that numerator. And when we do, we get x plus 5. And 4x in the denominator. And since this factor and this factor are the same, we can strike them out. And our final answer is x plus 5 divided by 4. Okay, let's take a look at question number 21. And in 21, again, we're given these two functions, and we're going to find f of g of x and then g of f of x. And I prefer this notation. We did that little thing with a raised circle in it, and if you want to change it over to this, that's fine. This helps us to see what we're embedding inside of the other. So I'm going to start with replacing g of x with 5x. Then I'm going to copy out the f function, but wherever I see an x, I'm going to just leave a big empty space. With that empty space, I'm going to fill it in with the input, which is 5x. And then I'm just going to simply simplify that. 5x quantity squared is 25x squared. And that's going to be minus 10x. And we're done. And now we're going to do the reverse of that. The inside function this time is going to be the f function. So I'm going to put in x squared minus 2x. And then I'm going to go to the g function, which is 5x. I'm going to have to put it down here. And I'm not going to put in an x, I'm going to put in a big empty space. In that big empty space, I'm going to fill it up with 2x minus 2x. And now I'm going to distribute 5 times x squared to get 5x squared minus 10x. Notice these two answers are not the same. They usually aren't. And now number 29, I know we're skipping around a little bit, but 29, now we're going to just find it using a numerical value. So the first thing we're going to do is evaluate g of negative 2. And g of negative 2, let's do this in our head, is going to be 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Now I'm going to take that output and put it into the f function. And when I square a negative 4, I'm going to get a 16 minus the 1, which is going to give me 31. Okay, number 30 is done the same way. You're going to go to the f function, plug in 0. When you plug in a 0, you get negative 1. And then what we're going to do is go to the g function and plug in the negative 1. And we also get negative 1. So both of those were inputs and outputs were negative 1. Now number 31, this time we're going to go to the g function and put in a 1. When we plug a 1 into the 3 times 1 plus 2, we get a 5. And now we're going to take that 5 and put it into the f function, which is 2 times 5 squared minus 1. And that's going to be 25 times 2, that's 50, and 50 minus 1 is 49. And let's not be afraid of the fractions. Let's go to the g function. And 3 times negative 2/3 plus 2. These 3's will strike out. That's going to be negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. And I'm going to take that 0 and put it in the f function. And I'm going to get 2x squared minus 1, or 2 times 0 squared minus 1, which is negative 1. So 32 was also negative 1. Okay, these last few questions require us to do some inverses. And with inverses, we're going to start by rewriting this, taking out the f of x and putting in y, and then switching. And now what I can do is I can subtract 3, reversing order of operations here. And to rid of ourselves of the 2, we can take its square root. And we'll get y minus 1 is equal to the square root of x minus 3. That's all underneath one radical. And then if I add the 1 to the other side, that'll give me y equals, I'm going to make that an equals, plus 1. And then what we want to do is simply take this out and type in f inverse. Okay, 34, doing the same way. Start with this. Switch x with y. And undo. There's nothing here on the outside that I can pull over to the left, so I'm just going to cube both sides. And I'm going to get x cubed is equal to y minus 5. And then add 5 to both sides. I'm going to pull the y over here to this side. And I get x cubed plus 5. And that'll be the answer. I'll just simply take out this and put in the inverse notation, just to denote that that's the inverse. All right, number 35. Again, this one's a little bit easier. We're going to change that to y, and then I'm going to switch the x and the y. Pull the 5 over to the x, and then divide by 4. And now change the y back to an inverse, so it'll be x plus 5 divided by 4. And 36. 36 again, we're going to change that to a y, and then switch it, so it'll be x is equal to y squared plus 7. I'm going to pull the 7 over to the left. Now remember, there's 2 answers with this one, so when I take the square root, both sides, this is going to be plus and minus. X minus 7 is equal to y. And then I'm just simply going to, let's change that to inverse. And that's how you do those inverse equations. Now, let's take a look at 37 real quick. This is not something we did in class, but it's, if we use some logic, it makes sense. If inverses are forward motion, backward motion, then these two really just cancel each other out. And so these are as easy as what you can possibly imagine. The answer here is going to be just 5, because these will cancel each other out. There's other ways you can do this, but this is a shortcut way. You wind up always with the same answer. Let me just show you on this one. If we were to take the inverse of 3x minus 1, we'd switch out the x and the y. and we would solve for the new y, so we're going to pull that 1 over to the left and divide by 3. And this will be the inverse. And now if I take the f of 5, f of 5 is going to be 3 times 5 plus 1, which is 16. And then if I plug 16 into the inverse function, 16 minus 1 divided by 3 is 15 divided by 3, which is 5. So we kind of did all that just to show you that these two will cancel each other out and your answer will be whatever the number is. So that concludes this video and the review. Hope you all do have a good turnout here, and if not, come see me during in period.